Hello and welcome everyone to the last, and I mean last as in this thing is going bye-byes in 2025, episode of Open Book Broadcast, where we talk about anything and everything to do with writing and publishing, and sometimes things that have nothing to do with writing and publishing, depending on where the conversation goes. I'm Allie, your host with The Right Place, Right Time. I'm an award-winning author and an international book coach and ghostwriter, and I am so freaking ecstatic about today's conversation because I have three of my favorite people, generally speaking, but also in the intuitive space, that are here to join me today in a conversation around the bravery in following your intuition in writing, and let's be honest, in life. Okay, we could all use a little more following that intuition, and these three wonderful souls are here to help me with that conversation. I'm hoping to just sit back and let them do all the talking. But before we dive into our fabulous conversation, I do want to properly introduce each of my guests. So in no order of preference or favoritism, I would like to introduce first Debbie Burns. Debbie is a Molotov cocktail and Hello Kitty packaging who helps busy neurospicy writers start and finish their fiction novels and having a blast doing it. As a best-selling and award-winning urban fantasy author with PTSD, she understands the unique challenges of the creative soul, looking for progress while balancing a hectic schedule and long-term mental, emotional, and physical health challenges. Deb's on a mission to save incredible stories from dying in the hearts and on the hard drives of the writers who dream them. Deb, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
And next up, we have the fabulous Jennifer Jane Young, who's the author of Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. She's an intuitive coach and dream life strategist. She helps heart-centered entrepreneurs and leaders design aligned, purpose-driven lives and businesses. She teaches you to trust your intuition, align with your purpose, and create a life you love. Jennifer offers retreats, workshops, and coaching globally. She's also the founder of the School of Intuitive Leadership and a former United Nations consultant. Her diverse background allows her to meet her clients where they are and create personalized strategies to help them reach their goals. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Allie. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you all. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Molly McCartney is an intuitive medium and spiritual life coach who helps intuitive, empathic, and spiritually sensitive people learn to nurture their self-care and trust their intuition so they can access inner peace, live on purpose, and go confidently for what they want in life. Ha! So good. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, let's just start with a softball question. You each have a book or multiple. Deb, you've got two now. Mm-hmm. And I know, Molly and Jen, you've got more books in you.
Oh, yeah.
I just know that to be true. Let's just start with you each giving us just a little preview of what your books are about before we dive into the conversation of following your intuition, whether it's with your books, other people's books, life in general. So I'll go in reverse. Molly, do you want to tell us a little bit about your book that's out there?
Sure, absolutely. It's called Empower Your Wisdom, available on Amazon. At launch, it did hit #1 on the bestseller list, which I was very excited about. And it was a labor of love for, I say 20 years, it's probably longer. I really got the intuition that it was going to happen very, very early on my spiritual awakening journey. I was inspired by other authors, inspired by other people doing what I do now. And I was in no place at that time to do this. So I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I just kept working the path, kept developing my gifts, kept trusting that, what my vision showed me was really what my life could be about. And then I arrived. So once I started doing readings, moved into coaching and mentoring, and it just, this is how I create things. I felt like it was time. It's time to do the book. And so I put some things on the back burner to work on that for a good year and a half. And the publishing process was grueling. The writing was awesome. The publishing was tough, but getting through it was amazing and life-changing to actually birth that into the world. And it really does. I mean, you all are authors, you know how it feels to like get it out there. And when it's in your heart and soul to happen like that, it's just amazing. So what it is about is, some stories from my own life to help inspire other people who are just feeling the stirrings of their intuition and their spiritual gifts are awakening, or they're being invited into more metaphysical circles and they're not really sure what to think about all this stuff. It's encouraging them to trust their intuition and shine their light by, tapping into their gifts. And I give lots of pointers and inspiration on the path. So that's what it's about.
So good. I'm going to add that one to my collection.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just thinking that if somebody got each of your books, it would make, I'm thinking of one of your books, Deb, more than the other, but like those three together, secret sauce to successful, lovely living. Let's bounce over to Jennifer. Jennifer, tell us about your book that's pretty recent here, just within the last year.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. The 1 year anniversary is January 11th, and we're going to have a super fun Trust Your Gut challenge coming up. So I'm excited about that. Well, actually, for me, the editing part was grueling. I don't know if you remember, Allie, but my body literally shut down when we got on Zoom to edit my book. And similar also to Molly, my book took like 10 years to write. I think that's kind of, your first book, it's such like a daunting path. And so it took quite a long time to bring together and to get it to a point where it felt really ripe to go out into the world. So Say Yes to Your Yes is a prescriptive memoir. So it is a mix of my story over the last 2 decades of learning to get to know my intuition, trust it, and take action on it. And just a lot of like the in-between stories of like what happened when I trusted my gut, when I did the thing, when I didn't do the thing, where it brought me, how my life developed as I continued to listen to my intuition. But it's a very kind of practical book at the same time. So it's part book, part journal. So there's journal prompts in between every chapter to really get people to pause and ask themselves some really powerful right brain questions. So the goal of the book is, it's called How to Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. The goal is to inspire people into action, because I talk a lot about what gets us stuck, what makes us not do the thing that our intuition is telling us to do. And so it's an inspirational and very action-oriented book as well. And it's like the love of my life right now. It's my North Star. It has completely shifted my business in so many ways, and I'm following the book now. It's leading the way. So it just has a huge part in my life. And next year it will be available in Spanish, which I'm excited about.
Yay!
Cool. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's really exciting. Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's move it along to Deb. Deb, I want you to start by talking about the first book. You know what I'm talking about. And then regale us with the tale of the latest book.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, first book is The Path to Courage. That's 7 steps to follow your soul song and live your happily epic after. And that one is like straightforward. It is what it sounds like. It's walking you through like 7 steps. So I have this whole history of adult trauma that led to post-traumatic stress disorder. And this book was kind of like my climb out of that, or how I've seen the steps that I've seen that have helped me to be successful in business when doctors told me that I would never be able to like go outside again. Like the doctors were like, you'll only ever be 60% of the human you were before the incidents happened. And this book is kind of my homage to F that shit. I'm like, I don't know what you're like, sorry, I don't know what I can say on your podcast. I should ask.
Say whatever you want.
Okay, fuck that shit. And being like, I've got to find a way. There's got to be a way to live in my fullest self. And this is kind of that. And funny enough, that book just came. I was at an event and the person running the event asked me to speak to the audience the very next day. So I had 24 hours notice. And that speech that I delivered was all based on intuition. It was like I had to sit down and intuit the audience and be like, where are we at? And what do they need to hear? And how do I connect my story in? And these are the things that came out. I like to say that my intuition feels like Post-it notes that fall from the ceiling and they'll sparkle, like different ones will sparkle. And I'll be like, oh, that one. Oh, that's the piece. Oh, that's the piece. And when they sparkle, I know to bring them in. And so that became the speech that ultimately I just transcribed and turned into my book because it was so powerful and moving for the audience and for myself. And I love this book with all of my heartbeats. It launched to international bestseller. And it is one that I still live by. Like I have to go back and read it every so often and be like, yes, this still applies, which makes me happy. And so there is that book over there. So The Path to Courage. And it really is geared towards the creative soul, because I feel like there's a lot of creatives with so much power in the world, and we underestimate our power because we don't look like that group over there and we don't look like that group over there. And I'm like, no, it is time for creatives to take a role in leadership, because there is something unique and special to us that allows us to create a different world. And we need that different world, and we need creatives in leadership. We are not a back burner kind of people team. So if you're out there and you're like, I'm a creative, I'm just a creative, you're not just anything. There's no just. Like, delete the just and know that the way that you show up in the world is needed, and we need you in leadership. Like, there is leadership in you, because I think too many of us discount our leadership. So there's that side. And then just a quick on the other side is Soul Reaper. That's my fiction novel. It's came bestseller. It's also an award-winning novel, urban fantasy about an angel of death who discovers that her contract to take souls is actually destroying her own. So she has to figure out how to break the supposedly unbreakable contract in order to live and survive. And that too is a journey through trauma, and a journey through like identifying like the gritty parts of life and what that means for us. So it's both of them are labors of love to me. Soul Reaper took my 10 years. That was my 10 years of trying to work through the fiction, and Path to Courage came overnight. But both of them, I think, are testaments to the courage required to live in authenticity, to shed the programs and the traumas and the hurts of our past in order to live in our truth in the present and build our power for the future. So
it's delicious.
Amazing.
Like, I can't say that I walk around going, I'm an urban fantasy reader, but I read it because it's Deb. And it's gorgeous. Like, the world building, the characters, like the intricacies of the story, the like little twist at the end that I never saw coming. It's juicy. It's juicy. Give it a shot. Let your nonfiction reading brain put it to rest. Go grab Soul Reaper and check it out. You will not be sorry. I'll get the links into there. Does everybody have a copy of their book with them, around them, near them?
I mean, box of shame.
Go grab it.
Go grab them. Go get them. We're going to wave them around in front of the screen. And then that way people are like, I'm going to take a screenshot of all of the fabulous books. Then
I ran out. I'm waiting for new ones, but I have the journal.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love these covers. I'm like, that's just me.
Okay.
So good.
You know what? They all have kind of a similar tone. Like, there's all like some pinks and yellow. Yeah. Okay, everybody, this is your Christmas holiday. Like, go buy all of these books and you'll be set for the first quarter of the year.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Thanks for playing along.
There's 2025. It's just one a quarter, right? Like, read it, implement it.
That's right.
Next.
You got it.
Book club.
You got it.
All right. That's right.
Book club. That's right. Actually, that's a good question. Do you all offer a book club experience through your books?
No, but that's a great idea.
Okay. I'll add that to our list.
I do actually in Substack, Allie. It's like a self-paced one now.
Okay.
But I read my book to my Substack audience, so you can go and listen to me reading the book, and I like throw in some coaching and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, cool. Love that. I love that. Self-guided. It makes it more actionable and also doesn't rush anybody along who needs to dig in with certain pieces of material, maybe a little bit more in depth before they move on. Gorgeous. Love, love, love. So we're here talking about bravery and following your intuition. Obviously, at least three of the books of the four we just talked about, right, have different pieces and elements of this. When you were working on your own book, how were you tapping into your own intuition during the writing process? This is for anybody, like whoever has something to say, go for it.
I think for me, whenever I'm in my creative mode, and I'm a creative too, I went to art school and, I really excelled in English and things like that. And when I'm in that side of my brain, it really always feels like channeling to me, like when I'm truly in it. If I get too logical about it or too critical during the process, I just shut down. So for me, I took myself to the beach for a week and got a really nice room, and it was far away from everybody. It was sea turtle season. So in the evenings I could go hunt for sea turtles and watch them lay their eggs. And it was just a magical experience. So I really set up that week to really get the first, I think, 40,000 words down. I just wrote and wrote and wrote every single day. And then the next year, the year that followed was the editing and the changing and figuring out how to get this thing to manifest in physical reality. But yeah, I think conditions are important, and just letting go, and you'll work out the details later, but get it out.
Yeah, I like that. Work out the details later. Like follow the Post-it note trail or whatever trail it is for you, and just do the thing. Yeah, so important. All right, Deb, Jen, anything to add?
For me, I think it's helpful to know what your intuition is like. Not everybody intuits in the same way. So like for me, I'm a feeling girl. I also get pictures and a little bit of knowing. So for me, part of my process is like laying on the floor and staring at the ceiling. And I know with so many writers I work with, they feel like that to be productive, they always have to be in doing something. And I think an important part of following our intuition is being able to give space enough to hear what intuition is trying to say in the way that it's trying to say it without judgment. So sometimes that looks like sitting on the beach and looking at the waves. Sometimes for me, it's laying on the floor and staring at the ceiling, right? Sometimes that rest, or not sometimes, but I think all the time, that rest can be just as important as what gets thrown down on the page. So like in my process, there is a lot of just sitting and staring and feeling through what's coming to me so I can understand it, and I can like break it out into the pieces that it needs, whether it's on the nonfiction side of seeing the structure and the format, or if it's on the fiction side of like really allowing myself to put myself in the skin of my characters and go, what are they feeling in this moment? What are they seeing in this moment? What's happening here? And as you already said, follow the Post-it notes, or I call it follow the white rabbit. I'm like, it's totally okay to follow the white rabbit and go down the trail. Everything becomes usable in some way, shape, form, or another. Again, like I think we've got to break away from traditional structures that require us to show up in a certain way and a certain beat path. Not saying we don't have structure to our book, because I know there's a memoir structure that makes it really powerful and impactful. There's a fiction structure that makes it really powerful and impactful. But the idea that we have to show up and be like, I have to sit down for 1 hour and it must look like putting 1,000 words on the page or else it doesn't count. That's the kind of BS that we need to move away from, to stand in our intuition and go, oh, the 5 minutes I used today, it was to sit with it. Or the 5 minutes I used today was to dream it. And that counts, and that works, and that all moves us forward.
That's such a huge piece. Like, I see this in the nonfiction space all the time working with clients, is that, well, how many words a day should I write? Or, well, I don't know what to do with chapter 1. Or like, well, what if I like handwriting it first? Does that count?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It all counts. Everything counts.
It all counts.
Everything counts. It counts. Count it. Use it as fuel, right?
Yeah, exactly. And my whole thing is like, okay, just because chapter 1 goes in the beginning doesn't mean that's what you have to write first.
Exactly.
And that usually is like, I don't? Like, I have permission to write something else? Mm-hmm. Yeah, write the thing that like, go after the thing that might feel like the easier lift and go back to the harder part, so that you're setting yourself up for a win, and you're not putting all that negative energy into like trying to get going on the thing that you're not sure how to say yet. Yeah. Right. And so then you're just like wheels stuck in the mud, and then it's like the rest of the process feels unfun, grueling, because you were so fixated on getting that first chunk done because it goes in the beginning.
Like writing is hard, right? We have our moments, whether it's editing or writing, but it shouldn't be prison.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a drudgery for us. It shouldn't be that thing that we're like, oh, I gotta write today. Like that, if we're doing this, it's because we've put some kind of expectation on the writing that doesn't need to be there. We've created a rule or accepted a rule that's not real. And I think it's important that we throw that away so we can get back to not just the writing, but the joy of writing, the like excitement for being in the book and being in the story and what that's going to create beyond just the words on the page.
Yeah. Yes, totally. All right, Jen, we were just all jumping in here.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating to see how everyone's writing happens differently and how everyone's intuition functions differently. Mine is very, my intuition interrupts me all the time for my writing. So I don't know if you guys have heard the story that Liz Gilbert once shared about the woman working in the fields, and then the poem would come and then she'd have to chase the poem. Like, that's kind of how my writing works. It's like I'm in the middle of doing something and then the download hits me, and then like, will I get to my computer fast enough to put it on the page before I lose it, kind of thing. And so I think I realized this year, I still have to do an assessment, but I'm pretty sure that I have ADHD, which I'm just realizing now at 41. And so my intuition actually works very similarly to my ADHD. It's just like this interruption in the middle of nowhere, and then I have to find a way to grab it and put it somewhere to then rework it after. But my dream now for this next book that I'm writing, I've already started my second book, is to do what Molly did. Like, I want to go away for like a week and just have that focused time to channel that in a more clear and calm way than like being interrupted in the shower while I'm on a client call with all of these ideas. So my process was a bit choppy, I would say, and it came together beautifully. Like it was perfect how it happened.
Yeah. I want to touch on that real quick, because one of the things that I think, some of my people who first start working with me and don't yet know how woo it's going to get, like, they look at me a little bit when I say your book has its own divine timing and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, there's absolutely not a freaking thing you can do about it. Your book is going to take on an energy and life of its own, regardless of what you do. So yes, we're going to have a process. Yes, we're going to have a structure. Like, yes, we're going to shoot for this deadline, but at the end of the day, your book is going to come when the book is damn well ready. And you just wait. It's going to happen, right? And then we hit that part in the journey. We hit a snag. We hit a writer's block. We don't hear back from somebody when we're supposed to. Somebody gets sick and needs a little bit of extra time off or whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, you're right. This thing is just going to come when it comes. And then on the other side, they're like, it came exactly when it was supposed to. Right. Yeah. But it's hard to lean into that, trust that, when we're looking at like, oh, I really want it to come out this year because, right. Did your books have that kind of like, you wanted something for them, but then ultimately at the end of the day, like, it worked out exactly as it was supposed to? Like a hiccup. Did you come across a hiccup that you were frustrated by and then realize it was actually a perfectly timed, like, diversion from your path?
I think I came across many hiccups, not hookups. Maybe those two.
Really happening at the beach. The beach had nothing to do with writing that story. It was a whole other story.
Sometimes they did, actually, probably. But yeah, but I started writing it so many times, from the probably 5 years after I envisioned it, and started again and again and again. I channeled a very small like booklet that I was like, well, it's straight channeling. I know some people would like that, but it's not supposed to be straight channeling, maybe another book. But that was almost like the seeds that were planted along the way. So each attempt that I saw as almost a failed attempt, or it's not time yet, was actually training or conditioning for my consciousness to bring in the words properly. And to be honest, I wasn't ready, because it is a nonfiction book and it is a mentoring book. And I wasn't ready to hold that space. So I had to develop and learn a lot of things before I was ready to stand firm. This is the hill I'm going to die on. I'm putting this book out in the world. And I said, I don't care who doesn't like it, or what typos are there, or who disagrees with what I'm saying. I'm ready to, this is who I am. So I think there's a development in that needs to happen when it's nonfiction too. So that happened to me quite a bit.
Yeah, I love how you said that the consciousness wasn't there yet to put the things into words that needed to be there. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and by the time I was ready, the difficult part was the nuts and bolts. So yeah, I was able to push through that, because that was the work part, but the flow of getting it out, it came because it was time. Yeah. So, to your point.
Jen, I wonder if you could talk about the timing of your book, because when you and I started to talk about your book, right? You were really attached to a particular
I was so stressed. Oh my God.
deadline, right? Like, tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you see it differently now.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I had a huge healing process along the way because I was so intense and uptight about my book. Like, it's going to go out this time. And yeah, it's not ready. And so I had to keep pushing it forward and pushing it forward and pushing it forward. And I remember how many times you reminded me, like, just relax. It'll come out when it's meant to come out. And so, yeah, that was the micromanaging part of me that was trying to control exactly when it was going to come out. And it was a huge lesson because it would have come out too fast. It would not have come out at such a high quality. And so it's kind of like, you know, when you make homemade bread, like if you don't let the bread rise long enough, you're going to have a big brick of cement to eat instead of a nice fluffy piece of bread. So, yeah, there was a lot of lessons in patience and surrendering and trusting the process. And, you know, it ended up coming out actually on like a perfect date, which was January 11th. 11 is a really important number for me. It's my life path number in numerology. And so my hiccups were like all of the forcing that I was trying to make happen, and then it wouldn't work out. It wouldn't happen. People were not ready. Like, it just, you know, turnaround time was needed for everybody. And even, you know, my experience with you, Ellie, when we did our intensive to, you know, finish up the book together, like I couldn't even rush that process. Like, we were 5 minutes in and my whole system shut down. We had to take a break because I couldn't even get through it energetically. I was like, my eyes were closing. So there's the practical side of writing a book. There's the emotional, spiritual side. Like, your soul needs to be ready to take on a whole new level of life when you're putting your masterpiece out into the world. So, yeah. And I had a big hiccup on my book launch day, but that's another story. That was the biggest hiccup of all, I think.
Oh my gosh. But you've all lived to tell the tale. Deb, what about you with either book? I mean, was there something that ended up being like becoming like a divine lesson or wisdom, you know, that wasn't?
I actually, as I'm listening to you ladies talk, I was like, you know, I think my divine timing morphed into distractions. I do believe in timing. And I tell my writers that they need to be more committed to the story than they are to the calendar, right? Like, the calendar cannot dictate to you your story, and it cannot dictate to you your success or the fulfillment of your dream. I'm like, I just want to help you see progress, because I think there's so much going on mentally, emotionally, and physically in our lives, that the idea that we're just going to like pump out something overnight and become a bestseller, or like, this overnightness needs to go away and the calendar needs to go away. Again, I'm not saying we don't have, goals and milestones to reach for, but this idea that the calendar can dictate to me whether or not there's value in my work because I got it done by a certain time is bogus, and tossing that out. But I can see in my own journey, like, the path to courage that came transcribed, it was published, like, that went, so it was a 48-hour turnaround. So I can't speak that one, just like, it was birthed. Like, so that might mean I was a little behind on that one, because she was just like, here I am. Right. She just came out. She was good to go. I didn't feel very many hiccups. I actually felt super excited, and it just like came and went. But Soul Reaper took its sweet time. And there were things for me to understand about her, about me, where myself and the main character overlapped and where we were different. But I can also see, looking back, that I allowed distractions to overtake what you would label divine timing, because there was an idea that certain things had to happen in a certain way in order for it to be valid. And so I allowed things that weren't a part of my plan, and I'm not necessarily mad at them. Sometimes I'm like, why, Debbie? But it's like, I made some choices that led me down various paths. And I'm all about taking what I can from whatever path I end up traveling. So I'm not going to be mad at a fork in the road where I went, oh, I should have gone right. Well, I didn't go right. I went left. So what are we doing down this left-hand road? But I think sometimes we can allow fear to cause us to choose into distractions that can adjust the timing of the work that we're trying to create, because we're afraid we're not enough. We're afraid it's not going to come out. We're afraid that people are going to judge it. We're afraid. And that's different than developing into the person that can tell the story, or developing into the person that can lead the movement that we're trying to lead. I think sometimes distractions just get in the way. So on my journey, I'm looking at it going, I think there were a lot. I think Soul Reaper could have come out sooner had I not followed the distractions that showed up in my life. That being said, I'm so freaking excited she's out in the world, right? I don't care. She came out 10 years later. Who cares? It took me 10 years to get that girl published. That's fine. But it is a lesson to me to watch my distractions and to go, what really matters most to me? And is what I'm choosing in alignment with what matters most to me? Or do I need to adjust what matters most to me based on what I'm seeing I'm choosing into in my life? That's a constant conversation I'm having with myself on anything that I'm choosing. Is this the thing for me in this season? Is this alignment to me? And if it's not, is it because some of my priorities have shifted without me understanding that? Or is it that I'm just distracted? Because what I really want is to stay clear and focused, and then divine timing can do its thing, right? I'm like, again, throw the calendar out, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm aligned. Alignment is a really important aspect for me.
I feel like there's a piece here that you're talking about with the distractions that makes me think of like people's accountability. And I find that that's one of the reasons why people really need coaches, because when on their own, it's very hard to hold oneself accountable when you're doing something as scary as putting out your own thought leadership or your own personal story, or this thing that feels so imaginative and different that you're worried that people won't get it, right? And so I think fear is driving distraction, or doubt is driving distraction, right? And distraction is not a very good friend of accountability.
Yeah, the inner saboteur is a sneaky little jerk. It really is.
Yeah, totally.
Trying to
Totally.
keep you safe, but yeah, you can't get anything done if you don't watch
I
it.
like to say that like it's kind of like Dobby the house elf. Dobby is super well intended, right? Tries to keep Harry from attending Hogwarts because he's really worried about Harry's safety. But Harry needs to be there. Harry has a job to do. He is the one. He has a purpose. So let him go to Hogwarts, and he will call on you when he needs you. Thank you very much, Dobby. But I also feel like we need to have a sense of humor about it, right? I think that the other thing that happens with distraction and accountability, or lack of accountability, is we start to judge and we start to beat ourselves up about, oh, I didn't do it today. I didn't sit down. I didn't write. I didn't, and I should have, right? And now we've just layered on another barrier to ease and flow and enjoyment of the process, because now we're beating ourselves up for letting ourselves get distracted, maybe not really understanding what's motivating the distraction and not holding ourselves accountable, right? But I think if we can find the humor and the levity, name your inner saboteur, name distraction, have, come up with, call it Dobby. I don't care. You can take that. It's not really mine. Hopefully J.K. Rowling doesn't see this. But like, have fun with it, get to know yourself and how you work and how you process, right? Because the more aware you are of how you're showing up to task, like the better off you're going to be in actually getting through the journey, right? Rather than just like fumbling around blindly. Like, and the other thing too, is like coaches are really helpful in this regard with the accountability, but like, if you don't take enough time with that coach to determine why you keep doing the same types of behaviors, like whether that coach is there in your ear going, did you write today? Did you get another chapter done? Like, isn't going to matter, because you haven't gotten to the root of like why you're, walking away, resisting, procrastinating, whatever the behavior, might be.
And I want to be clear that like taking care of yourself is not a distraction in any kind of creative process. Like there will be days where you're like, whatever is going on, you're like, I don't have the bandwidth. It's not here. And I think it's important to be able to have the grace, as you're talking about, to be like, my writers would call it grace day. Like sometimes you just need grace day where it's like, I'm not going to get to the things I thought. I'm not going to be as productive as I thought I was going to be, or society wants me to be. And that's okay, because I'm taking care of me today. And that's just as important as any kind of word I lay down on the page. And so and I think that's where coaching becomes so powerful, is you have someone who can reflect outside of you to be like, ask you the questions. I think a good coach isn't just going to be like, boom, here it is. They're going to ask you the questions and help you understand your intuition so you can see, oh, am I really resisting? Or is it just, I need that grace day. I need to take care of me. And I think that's an important part of the creative process and the intuitive process, is to be able to be in conversation with yourself, your soul, your creativity, so that you can begin to understand, oh, this is a distraction, but this one over here is me taking care of me. And that's important, and that's good, and that's okay. And all of it helps move whatever it is that I'm working on. It all helps move it forward when I can understand that for myself.
Absolutely.
That discernment is going to be really, really important. So what would your advice be to a new first-time author or somebody on the journey right now in terms of trying to tap more into their intuition during the writing process? What would be your go-to tips and tricks?
I want to say play and make mistakes. Like, we take ourselves so seriously. When it comes to intuition, I'm like, play with it. Ask yourself questions, challenge it, and give yourself room to make mistakes in a way that goes, I'm not a bad person, or I'm not less valuable because I made a mistake, but in a way that you can look back and go, I thought my intuition was saying this. I tried it out. And this is what it's like, the whole like scientific thing that we did as kids, right? We make a hypothesis, we put the hypothesis into effect. And then on the other side, we go, did it work? Did it not work? And why? Yeah. Right. And so our aversion to making mistakes actually is an aversion to listening to our intuition, because as we're developing, I had someone say once upon a time, and I loved it, that learning that language inside is like learning a new language. We're not, our culture, I think, actively separates us from our intuition. As we're growing up, culture is like, you're too sensitive, you're this, you're that, don't be like that. Like, it's constantly stepping in with, I'm the authority, this is how it's done. Your voice doesn't matter, my voice is more important, right? And so we are actively taught to distance ourselves from that, however we speak inside of us, that language, that divine language inside of us. And so as we're coming back to that in adulthood and beyond, it's a new language, and we're not always it's like Spanish. When I started speaking Spanish, and I accidentally used embarazada for I'm embarrassed, but embarazada actually means I'm pregnant, right? So I'm telling people I'm pregnant when I mean to tell them I'm embarrassed. You're going to get some things wrong, and that's okay. It's being willing to try, and then ask yourself on the back end, did it work? Did it not work? And why? So that I can continue to fine tune my intuition, and understand what it's telling me. So when I read someone and I'm like, in the beginning, I'm like, I knew 3 things. I knew whether you were happy, angry, or sad, right? But as I started diving into that and going, okay, you're angry. Is it this or is it this? I'm going to make, and working with me, Allie, I ask a lot of questions because I'm tapping into my intuition. I'm feeling into your soul. And then I'm asking questions to witness or reaffirm to me the things that I'm sensing from you, so we can get to the answers we need to get to. But if in the beginning I wasn't willing to make mistakes and go, especially with Joe, I'm like, you're angry. And he's like, actually, I'm hungry. I'm like, oh, that's hungry, angry. Okay. So I was slightly wrong, slightly right. But what adjustment can I make? How can I fine tune that intuition? That comes through play and mistakes. Try things out, play with it, like enjoy the process. And something I had to teach myself was to love my mistakes as much as I love everything that goes so dang right.
Yeah. When I first started giving readings, I likened it to taking a leap of faith, especially, when I practice in circles, it's like I sort of kind of knew the people, but starting to do it in the public with strangers, I'm like, I'm just going to open my mouth and something's got to come out. So it was wonderful training to just say, all right, I'm going to leap and say exactly what's coming. And if I stop to overthink it for a minute, the flow stops. Mm-hmm. And so absolutely with writing, same kind of thing. I want to just double down on what you just said, but also something that helped me, and I'm sure other people recommend this, but is just speaking as if you are already on a platform, already on a soapbox. People are listening. Like, there are people that want to hear what you have to say, or you wouldn't have the intuition to say it. There's that network of divine intervention and appointments is happening all of the time. So even if 5 people, their lives are changed from your book, you've changed 5 lives. If you've just said that one little thing that makes you feel so good and so right when you say it, and it really changes somebody's mindset and helps them create something that serves other people, it's like, it's happening all the time. So to me, that kind of elevates the process. It makes it more fun and interesting. So I'm kind of preaching to whoever's there while I'm writing. And then you get the beautiful feedback afterwards that, you know, how it touched people. So you get to see that. But if you hold it inside and you don't, you know, follow that or play with that, you'll never know. So I don't know. That's kind of part of what I did.
I love that, Molly. I feel like you're essentially playing with like intuitive improv. It's like, let's just play improv, like when we had those drama classes, you know, in high school.
Yeah, let flow.
Super fun. I tend to lean a lot on my background as a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, because what I've seen, and it relates exactly to what Molly and Debbie are saying, is that when our nervous system is relaxed, we can then access the channel of our intuition. So, and it has been my lifelong hurdle and practice of keeping my nervous system in the relaxation response. Because when I'm in the stress response and I'm in survival state, I completely shut off my channel to my intuition. And so I always encourage people to think about like what relaxes your nervous system, you know, and sometimes that's play, and sometimes that's going for a walk outside, and sometimes that's yoga. But as soon as we go into that survival state, when we're in a sense of urgency and we're going into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we are not making decisions from that inner wisdom. And it, like the ego is just driving everything forward, right? And our ego in our left brain, which is like the logic and analytical side of things. So nurturing just a really healthy nervous system, which kind of sounds like boring, I know, but it's literally the key to unlocking all of our potential and our intuition and our magic and our gifts. So that's where I would go.
Oh my gosh, folks. So breathe, get in touch with your body, play, embrace your mistakes, and pretend like there's already a crowd of people who need exactly what it is that you have to say. You heard it all here first. So there you are. There's your magic toolbox for getting through the writing of your book by following your intuition with our fabulous guests, Jennifer, Debbie, and Molly. I want to give you all a chance to tell people where to find you and to let us know if there's something special coming up that you want to let people know about before we wrap for today's episode. Jennifer, people can connect with you on LinkedIn. That much I know. I'm going to put your links into the comments. What do you got going on? Where else do you want people to come and hang with you?
Yeah. So the funnest place to be right now with me is in, I've got a free Facebook group, which is called Say Yes to Your Next Yes. And so I would encourage people to come there. It's like an incubator for us to experiment with things. And I have on January 11th, to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of my book, we're doing a Say Yes to Your Next Yes challenge. So it's the place where you get to be supported by me, where you get to play and experiment with your intuition. We, like, people are like, oh my God, I said yes to my yes, I did the thing, and they're posting about it. And so it's a very vibrant, exciting, and supportive community. And there's going to be a lot of goodies dropping in there in 2025. So you can go to jenniferjaneyoung.com/community. Yeah, that's where the party is right now.
Okay, get that into the comments here. I love that challenge idea. Amazing. All right, Deb, where do you want people to come and hang with you, and what do you got going on?
So going into 2025, I'm really focused on my fiction writers, and that is Fiction Expedition. So best place, Instagram at Fiction Expedition. I'm on LinkedIn under Deb Magic. That's an MAJGICK. I can't spell. It's too early in the morning, team. It's like only 8 o'clock where I am right now. This is insanity. Okay. No, that's how much I love you, Allie. But yeah, so LinkedIn's going to be getting a facelift here in a minute to point more to the fiction writing, but you can find me on LinkedIn. Instagram, it's at Fiction Expedition. And I think those are the best two places to start. And for a link, it would be fictionexpedition.com/sustainable writing guide, I believe is what I gave you, Allie. And that is to get what I call the sustainable writing guide, which is how to write a novel in 15 minutes a day while keeping your sanity intact. So if you want to check that out, if you're looking at fiction writing, if you're like, I don't know, if you have a story in you, you're a fiction writer. Okay. So don't give me this I don't know stuff. It's all good. Come over and check me out. And we're going to be upping the play in 2025. So
awesome. And Molly, what's the thing that you've got going on right now that you're just super thrilled to let people know about?
Well, I'm so excited about my new membership. It's the Empowered Wisdom School membership, only $37 a month. You can find the information for that on my website. I've also got a free energy clearing toolkit you can grab on my homepage, and you can click through the menu on my website. I've got my 2 podcasts, the Empowered Wisdom Show and the Empowered Wisdom Hour. They're linked there. And my book, Empower Your Wisdom, How to Heal Your Life and Shine Your Light by the Power of Your Intuition and Spiritual Gifts. You can check that out all on my website. That's what I'd recommend. And if you like what you see on the membership page, please join us. I'm offering a free intro session right now when you join. So worst case, you get a free session, you get some really immediate feedback, and you can check out the membership and cancel if you don't like it, or stay with us. We've got a great tight-knit community there that's very lovely and very supportive. So hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with me this morning. You're all fabulous. I'm wishing you all the best of luck and success where you're heading next year. I'll be looking for all of the fun things that you're going to do with your books in 2025. Folks, please go support these women, grab their fabulous books, add them to your bookshelf, read them, hold on to them, highlight them, underline them, dog ear them, follow them, and make your lives full of bravery and intuition and all the things that you want to do, because life is way too short. And that is a wrap. That is the final episode of Open Book Broadcast. Thank you so much for joining me these last couple of years as I brought on fabulous guests to talk about writing and publishing. All the episodes will continue to live over on the Right Place, Right Times YouTube channel. So they're not going away. We're just not doing new episodes. So go binge watch all the fabulous interviews that have come before today's. And of course, reach out via the rightplacerighttime.com if you want to talk about writing a memoir. If you want to write fiction, you're looking at her. Deb, there. She's got your back. All right. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.